So I'm here with TJ, the tape collector from OSTT Productions.
Yeah.
And wanted to ask you about one of your favorite cities in California for rap music and the tapes that you have so avidly collected for so long and tirelessly and thoroughly, and that is Fresno, California.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes Fresno unique in terms of rap music and rap tapes?
I would say it's considerably the same type of thing as like East Palo Alto. You know, it had its own style, and you know, Fresno was always pretty popular for music, hip hop, just in general. It has like a big culture of different type of people, different type of music. I mean, you can go back to even like, you know, breakdancing, popping. It was
exactly
history of
started
Fresno.
there,
It's got a huge history with that. So, I mean, you could push it back very far, especially when it comes to like funk music, which would heavily influence rap later on and hip hop.
Which funk groups are from there?
There's a bunch of like funk groups that are more underground, like the Dixons obviously is one of the bigger ones that's down there. They were like the Jackson 5 of funk, you know, a bunch of brothers. They all had brothers and cousins had a funk band, and Moselle, who's the guy that I usually talk to the most from there, he did a lot of beat making and I guess you could say instrumentals for a lot of the rap groups through, you know, he'll say from 92 to 95. He did some later stuff also. So yeah, a lot of people in the music industry have ties to Fresno, like even like Cher, and music's like, you know, different types of music tie back to the Fresno area. So you get a lot of influence there, and I think when you get a lot of influence, that's where you get some of the best stuff.
It's funny how there's so many cities that people talk shit about and talk down on because maybe they're not as fancy or as glamorous as the main cities, and you know, it's usually like industrial working class areas, but yet they seem to produce some of the best music, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, they just have that ear for something different. You know, that's what it comes down to. That's what catches my ear when you listen to it. Not that it's totally different. You know, it's gangster rap, mob music. Depends. It all has similar things at the core, but it's just the different stuff you pick up from different areas, whether that be a hook or a beat or different ways they say stuff. It's something that you just pick up from living in that area. So if you live in that area and you know more about the area, it's obviously going to make the music feel more real.
Yeah. Well, I know that your perspective comes from being a tape collector, so you're kind of limited to that. But what years would you say, from your perspective, were the most the best years of Fresno?
I would say anywhere, you know, it's hard to say because 92, 93, 94, you know, I would say anywhere from 92 to 95 obviously is going to have some of the better music that I'm into.
Mm-hmm.
Better beats, better lyrics, better storylines in the music and stuff like that. But there's also different genres of the earlier hip hop and rap that came from there that was different from other areas. You know, I guess you can consider, because you know Stockton's a big area for me, and there's a tie between the valley. You know, Stockton, Merced, and you start getting into Fresno. So, and a lot of the people in groups were friends, or they knew each other, so they would pick up stuff. So I would say in that time period there was so many artists that were just doing great, you know, music, hooks, beats, choruses, whatever you needed from the song. I mean, there's just a lot of great songs that came from that time period in Fresno.
And also a shout out to you know, artists who are still doing stuff from there today. Planet Asia, who for many years he's been active.
Mm-hmm.
MC Wicks,
yeah.
Fashawn, and then Killer Tay. Didn't he come out of there too?
He did, yeah. He was on the Doja Click album, or Speed Kills, right? He was with their JT the Bigga Figga had a lot of interest in Stockton too, and then Killer Tay had an album out there from Fresno, and he was on. Was it Kingpins Only? Maybe it was. It was a compilation.
Was he with Sibo and something too?
He did a lot of stuff with him too. Yeah. I mean, and that's like the thing about it is you get, it influences everywhere once that gets out. I mean, obviously you said Planet Asia, you know, and he's more of a hip hop.
Right.
Ish, you know, he has his hip hop style, and then he has some street style, because if I'm not mistaken, he's from West Fresno, which is one of the harder areas to be from. And so, you know, his vibe was always, I'm a hip hop artist, but I'm not gonna ever not have like lyrics that have meaning, or have lyrics that have good storylines of stuff that I've been through and stuff that I've gone through living in Fresno or on the streets in general. So yeah, definitely there too. You know, there's another artist out there that I'll mention too, just so I don't forget, but Murder One, he did a few albums with Moselle too, at the time, and he had a really good funk style also. Just the problem with his album was that he had like a couple really good like hardcore songs and a couple songs that were like so. You know, I think maybe he rushed the album. So, but he would have been, you know, one I would have put in the top, you know, the top 5 or 6 artists who had his album been a little bit better.
Okay. Any last words on the town of Fresno and its rap history?
Just, you know, there's some for everyone there. Like you mentioned, MC Wix is doing a lot more of the hip hop stuff now. You know, he's heavily influenced by Planet Asia, you know, and Planet Asia is the same thing. You know, I want to say he was in an early group called Yard Massive. Lifestyles of a Cali MC, I believe that was his first group. They had a tape that was super rough. It would be more like a Hobo Junction type, Saphir type feel. And you know, when I've watched a couple interviews with him, and he would talk about how like he was heavily influenced by like Rakim and shit like that, and you know, New York artists, hip hop, but he was always tied to West Fresno. So, you know, his albums had both. You know, you can listen to hip hop if you want. He had a couple songs that would appeal to the other types of rap music fans too. So
yeah, and I like your comparison there with the Hobo Junction, because there's a lot of groups from the Bay Area that they kind of fall somewhere between hip hop and mob. It's like
Extra Prolific.
Yeah, there's so many, and then like someone who's only into like quote unquote hip hop, we're like, oh man, I can't get with that. And it's like, yeah, you can if you listen.
Yeah.
It's got funky breaks, it's got scratching, but it's sort of like a combination.
Yeah, and I think like the mixture of having so many artists in Fresno at the time that were more on the gangster rap side, mob side, someone like that can take that in and then also add in styles that would appeal to the masses at the time. I mean, he did it later solo, like what, 95, 96-ish. I want to believe his first solo album was like 97, 98 actually. But in the meantime, before that, I'm sure he had, you know, been doing concerts, been doing releases, doing freestyle battles, whatever. And that's just, you know, you've seen how well he's done. He's doing tours all over, you know, still. I believe he's still doing them.
He's incredibly prolific. He's always doing stuff and collaborating with people.
Yeah, and there's a whole other side too. Like the groups I mentioned, there's a lot of rappers that were mostly, you know, either black or they had a couple of white members that were in there. And there was early groups in Fresno too that definitely laid the ground floor for hip hop, and probably comes from like the popping and the b-boy stuff. There was a group called Two Hard Homeboys that came out. They were like 89. You know, it had more of like a rock hip hop feel.
Do you have their
Yeah, I have their tape, and they had like a crazy, you know, Metallica Pantera looking logo.
Yeah.
And they had the long hair on the cover album. So when you look at it, you might be like, is that a rock album or a rap album? And a lot of the early Fresno albums had like just, you know, super basic covers. There was a DBL Posse. It was called In the Know. They had an album was just a dude standing in front of like a Mercedes sign with like a pistol. You know, his raps were good. They were early though, so you have to be into that early stuff to really appreciate it. Yeah, and then like I don't know, KIL was also Keep It Live. They were a gangster rap group also out of there that they had done a single that I have, and it was actually like over the Float On beat, and it was kind of weird because their later albums definitely more of a gangster rap album, but like their earlier when you look at the cover, you're like, damn, they're in Raiders gear. You know, they got the donkey ropes. They're got the big old, Raider puff jackets on and stuff. You look at the album, like, that's just like a hard album, but the first like single they had there was like more of like a slow jam type feel, and then their later album came out in 96, 94, 96, somewhere in there, and it was like strictly gangster rap music.
Yeah.
So. And I think the problem is, like with anyone that was in the time frame from 92, 93, is that they seen what NWA did. They were able to push, gangster rap out to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a lot of talent, but they didn't have a lot of the smarts to figure out how like this could be like a longevity thing for them. They just wanted the money now, and they didn't hold on to their masters. They didn't hold on to the publishing rights, and a lot of people took advantage of that because they wanted to have the next big thing. And at the time, like, to be honest, a lot of the music executives and people that work for record labels, they were just looking for the next big thing that they could take advantage of. So you come across a group like, or a duo like Insane and D-Mac, they had the full package. They were selling their stuff at Rasputin's, but a lot of that was because of Mazelle's connections, because he had the funk band, the Dixons, and they were touring and they had albums, and so it was easier to accept help from somebody who's in the music scene. But then now when you mention his name to one of the artists, they're kind of like, oh, he has no rights to my music and this and that. But it's sad because they both contributed. They both contributed, but money gets people antsy, especially probably 93, 94, 95, when they're kind of doing something that's not approved by the masses or not accepted by the masses yet. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, TJ.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it.